Welcome to today's episode of CLCI Live, brought to you by the award-winning and ICF accredited school, Certified Life Coach Institute. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode.
It's another Tuesday at 4. It's the last day in our relationships and rapport week or month. It's a month. It's been a month of doing this. Yes. I'm going to turn it over to Jerome. Before I do, I'll introduce myself. I'm Brooke. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Certified Life Coach Institute. And I would love it if those of you guys watching, comment, share, like all that good stuff. We are monitoring. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Jerome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jerome. I'm the lead admin and social media manager here at CLCI. Kind of like Brooke talked about, we are going to be talking again about relationships. This will be the last of the series for the month.
Thank goodness. We're breaking up. Done with relationships.
We're done with relationships. We're moving on. We're over it. We didn't listen to any advice we gave ourselves, and we're just over it. We're moving on.
Yeah, we're CLCI Live. We're breaking up. It's all gone.
So we will be kind of wild carding it a bit today. We'll be having a little bit more fun with this one. We're going to be talking about questions you would ask on a first date. Not to spoil anything, but it may have some relation to coaching questions and coaching conversations that some of you guys may be having with your clients. So with that being said, we have someone here today special to us and a special appearance, CLCI Anthony Lopez, MCLC.
Hello, everybody. I'm usually hiding in the back end, writing the blogs for the CLCI Lives, but I decided to join you guys for the live this time. So this will be very interesting and fun to talk to you guys about first date questions and how we can make good first impressions.
Yeah, this will be Anthony's second time joining us. His first official CLCI Live, right?
Yes, first CLCI Live. I did do the lunch and learn for the class I attended a week ago, something like that.
Which was a ton of fun, I think. You guys should check that out if you haven't. That was, I believe, 3 videos ago, if you want to scroll down our video log.
Did you just say a couple 3 videos ago?
A couple or 3 videos ago.
Relationship. 3 is
3 also a relationship.
It can be fun, you know.
Or, it's fine. They're all relationships. I'm not
Get all these parallels already.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa. Welcome. We're appreciative of you guys watching. Brooke always says comment, like. Oh, there's 3 things: comment, like, and share our stories. That's it. That's all I got.
All right. So what do we ask on a first date?
So
when's the last time you all went on a first date?
I don't know. I don't recall.
Let me check my calendar. Real quick.
Yeah, I don't.
I got probably almost 40 years since.
Yeah. What did you do on your first date, Lisa? What were there restaurants back then? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not even sure. I think the dinosaurs is what we ate. We went around with clubs. And they grabbed me by my hair and dragged me through.
Okay, yeah.
This has deteriorated quickly.
Sorry about real nice with the insult.
When I think back during the time that I did date, I was always excited to be asked on a date because I was very shy, very much an introvert, and wasn't a great, and my family will even tell you, I wasn't a great conversationalist because back then, there's a lot of growing up I had to do and a lot of learning that I mattered. And so through that process of I matter, my voice became more stronger and more active. So first dates, Akash, I don't even remember that I've really had first dates. We kind of all just hung out together as groups and then we paired off. How about you guys?
That is, I think we spoke about that a bit. I feel like that is what I aspire to naturally have, but my first date, my most recent first date, maybe a year ago. It was first and last. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
What did you do? What
We went to go get.
wrong questions did you ask?
I asked the right questions, and I
Okay.
realized that I didn't want to take it any further.
Then right question.
Question being what this person kind of enjoyed, what they like to do. There wasn't a whole lot of depth. She got me in because she was a cute girl. There wasn't a whole lot of depth to the answers, though.
I'm sorry to whoever this girl is.
Could you
I'm not
please
naming any
say the
names.
full name for?
I'm not naming any names. I'll
viewers.
tell you guys after we're done going live. But
Okay, I'll
we'll
put
keep
that
it
in the
confidential for now. She signed an NDA, so I can't. I'm sorry.
So I won't include her name in the blog either.
But yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, when you go on a date, you kind of start asking what they do, what they like to do for fun. Usually that kind of spirals into what they do for a living, their background. You just really, I think what I try and do when it comes to first dates is try and find some parallels that would ultimately allow us to have a good time together if we decide to go ahead and move on to a second or third date.
What would be, I think you approached that a little bit last week, Jerome. What would be the rose that would allow you to go on a second date?
Ultimately, I think morals, which I think come out in your languaging when you're speaking about what you do and the types of things that you like to do. If those align with mine, I think that is enough for me to go ahead and move on to that next date, and then hopefully dig a little bit deeper. But I think what I'm really looking for in a first date, which again, I'm not on the dating path at the moment, but once I do, that's very important to me. I want to make sure that our morals are aligned. If that isn't being checked, then quite honestly, it can't work. It wouldn't work for me.
And
Which is a really deep question to ask, right? On a first date, what are your morals? What are your values? Which, again, it wouldn't be an interrogative type process. It'd be more of a explorative. Again, what do you like to do? This sounds like something I would enjoy doing. As long as you're not, into like beating people up or something like that. That's definitely a good check in my book. So
Man, Jerome, we're not gonna be able to hang out.
Both me and Brooke were just like, well, that's fine sometimes.
maybe she's a UFC fighter. That's cool. That's cool in that space.
Yeah, that's okay. That's one of those times that you can beat people
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
what about you, Brooke? What's a first date that is a successful first date that gives the rose to the second date?
I've never had one.
Never had a successful first date. Is that what you just said?
Well, I don't really want to talk about it.
We don't have to talk about it. We have Anthony here. We can probe him finally. I'm in the,
Oh,
I'm in the good seat.
someone's at the door. I gotta go. So I think the last date I went on was like 2 weeks ago. But I don't typically go on dates like blind dates where like I'm just getting to know the person that very day. Because the people I usually will ask on dates, I'll kind of either work with them for a little while or know them for a while, or I'll be kind of friends with them. And so the rapport building and the questions kind of come out then, but there's no real stakes at all. And there's no real intention either at that point. So I can usually decide before then if I want to, ask this person on a date. And then I usually keep things a little bit lighter than Jerome. I don't really ask what's their morals on the first date, but it's usually from there I'll see, what they've got going on in their lives. What do they do for a job? What do they do for their free time? Hobbies, especially. I like people who have diverse set of hobbies and like to do a lot of things. If you end up just watching TV when you go home after work, I'm probably not going to be interested in you. That'll probably not get a second date. But I think it's also important too, like what kind of intentions do you have going into dating? Because Jerome's intentions might be a lot different than my intentions, which are probably different from everyone else's intentions, who are going on dates. So that kind of sets the mood for what kind of questions are the right questions, because, what's right for me might not be right for someone else.
I really think we can. So when I say I've not been on a lot of first dates, well, it's because we all have a vetting process. I have a vetting process. Absolutely, I do. And I tried online dating, and it was the most terrifying thing I've ever been through in my entire life. Just everybody was a liar. I mean, I swear.
See,
And-
I'm 5'9" in my profile, but I'm 5'8".
Oh my goodness. No, but it was extreme. But my dad, it's funny though. So when I was going through the process of online dating, he gave me some great rules with it. Like he was like, go out with them during the day, go on a day date. If they are drinking a lot on the date, you probably don't want to set a date. Because you want somebody who's taking it seriously, right? And not like getting wasty pants. And then of course he said go out during the day because you actually get to know a person better in the daylight, basically. Which you can see that, right? I mean, people are a little different during the day than in a bar or at dinner. And it also keeps it a little light too. You don't have to, like, committing to an entire meal can be a big deal. Like that could be a long period to be stuck with somebody you don't want to be stuck with. And I have probably made the worst mistakes a person could make when it comes to first dates. Like I'm like the rule book for everything you shouldn't do, probably, but I've learned. Maybe, I don't know, we'll find out.
Also, I don't like dinners as a first date, mostly because like if you're just trying to get to know the person, what are you going to talk about? Like you're talking about the food that you eat, and it's like the same.
I've never understood like going to a movie on a date. Like
those are bad first dates.
Like, what are you're not going to get to know anybody while watching a movie, except for maybe if they're obnoxious or like,
So do you guys spend time on the phone with the people that you're potentially?
So my annoyance is it's texting. It's always a lot of like that texting back and forth or the messaging, and everybody texts. Nobody gets on the phone nowadays. And I'm better on the phone.
Lots of relationships have failed because of texting and the misreading, not misreading, but misinterpretation. That's the word.
You can't. There's no tonality. Right?
So people will read attitude where there was perhaps a joke. So they would have heard the lilt in their voice differently than if they were the tonality. You can't hear the tone.
Yeah.
We've got those emoji things now that help people understand what that
emojis doing what they can to keep relationships together.
There we
never been a good
emojis
thing.
right there.
Yeah.
At
There
least
you go. Anthony's throwing up some emojis. I mean, we message all the time, and we kind of misinterpret, I'm sure, sometimes. And we know each other, so to have a lengthy text conversation with someone who you hardly know it's got to be bound to be misinterpreted.
Not only that, but okay, from a marketing perspective. So for me as a marketer, as somebody who's done sales and marketing, I know for a fact it's a lot easier for someone to BS me via text or via email. It's also easier for them to click me closed. It's also easier for them to ignore me. Whereas when you're actually on the phone with somebody, it's a lot harder for people to just sort of shut you off or shut you out. When you actually speak to a person and have a verbal interaction, you become an actual human being at that point. Until you actually have that talk, you're just a digital version of not even a person. I'm serious. Like that is the mentality. It feels like a lot of times is that people aren't people until they actually talk to you on the phone.
Well, and I think it is even still one step further, and you still don't really know that person until you start spending time with them, because still they can give a best version of themselves.
Oh yeah, you're only getting a small window. Well, and then the other thing, I used to, whenever I wanted a job, like whenever I wanted anything to happen, I would always make a point not to just email, but to go down, physically be there and be like, put myself in front of them, because doing that, you'll stand out. You're going to be far more memorable than somebody who just sends an email or somebody who just sends a text. Is getting yourself physically in front of people. You again become human and leave an impression. Absolutely.
Back in the day, I never did this because I've been in a relationship for a really long time, but I had friends that went through Great Expectations was the group name that you would go into the building and you would flip through photos and read their profile.
It's wow. So I mean, that is like the what is that? What is the swipey one? Come on.
Tinder.
Like the old school version. By the way,
Tinder.
Letitia Walker. Hi, Letitia Walker. Hello.
You're talking about Tinder, Brooke.
Tinder. Thank you. That is like, you know, or plenty of, I mean, any
There's
dating.
so many. Yeah,
I
there's
don't
so
even want to
many.
go into the dating app. I don't even.
You know,
But
not that I.
we were talking about dating, but really this is about making a good first impression, right? So this is about how do we make a good first impression, and this can be applied to being when you're a coach as well. So how do you make a good first impression for your clients? How do you make a good first impression when you're putting yourself out in any environment as your professional self, right?
I think
Thoughts?
authenticity is probably one of the biggest ones, and also that applies to dating very much so, because
Sense of humor, I think, has got to be a
Yeah.
really important. No
Well, it
matter-
depends. It depends on what kind of coach you are. I mean, maybe I mean, yes and no, but maybe some coaches need to be serious all the time, even though I think humor is wonderfully infused anywhere. But
Well, I think in a moment there's appropriate and inappropriate, right?
yeah, yeah.
So when I just meet a client, I can be different in each instance. Like there was one time in an older office that I was at, I had just had fun with the last client. We were laughing up a storm. So the next client got to reap some of that benefit. And I like scooted them over. I mean, I, sideswiped them and scooted them over. And I go, hey, how you doing? You're coming in. What's going on? So just carrying on that conversation based on who I am. But there must have been some sort of feed from them that was okay too, based on some interaction I have, which was probably on the phone first.
Yes, I was going to say, what I want to do is take this to, let's first figure out what is the first, and when does the first impression start, really? Because it can, if we're talking on a coaching status, the first impression can start way back. I mean, in any case, really, you may not even know.
The first impression goes like both ways, because you have your first impression of the client. Like, coaches shouldn't just take every client that wants to coach with them. Like, there should be a vetting process for the clients you want to have, but it also goes both ways, where the client is, vetting you, and your first impression and their first impression, sets the tone if this relationship's going to work. Like,
it's the job interview mentality, where if you're going in for a job interview, you should also be interviewing them back. You're not just there to answer questions. You should be asking your own questions as well when you are in an interview situation, and flip the tables on them, but it's true though. If you walk in the door and I have the confidence to ask you back, okay, so ask you questions back, put you as my potential coach or my potential employer through your own interview process, it definitely gives an impression of something. It gives you, you have the confidence to do it, right? It makes you appear like you're not needy or desperate in some way. And this can also all apply to dating as well. So
I don't have that thought process when I'm with my clients or just meeting them.
Yeah.
I
I
know some people do. I know some people, they really do have an importance on, as we're calling it, the vetting process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just interested. I'm just interested in what you have to say. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I don't even have that thought. I just go with, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
But each of you need to know who you are and what works for you. And that my way doesn't necessarily mean that's the way you as a coach should follow through. Mm-hmm.
But again, as a coach, we are always curious and asking questions, right? And we are also listening for those moments that maybe a referral out is warranted. Maybe, as things come out and our clients open up about who they are, we're going to be learning a lot of information.
Sure.
Yeah.
Definitely would refer a couple, because I'm couple, sorry, the dogs are going cuckoo, that needed additional assistance beyond coaching, absolutely important. Or if they needed financial planning, I'm not a financial planner. That's a licensed profession, so I'm going to refer out for that as well. But thinking about, even as we're transitioning from the dating conversation, if I were dating, I would not have the same behavior as I'm in. Let's just get let's get going into the process. I think today, if I were to start dating, I'm definitely going to interview them, because I can't let just anybody into my world. Not today. I've just moved to Colorado, creating friends.
Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing.
Because of COVID, that's where I can take it. I haven't made any new friends here, because I'm, as mostly sequestered in the house. Periodically we go out, but there's no new group gatherings that I am familiar with, but I'm also in a new area. And I don't have a lot of time. So it would be, if I were in dating, important to find out those questions, like Jerome was saying. What are your values? What's important to you? Share with me what goes on in your heart.
Well, and I will say that friend thing, especially during COVID. And I mean, for me, I'm already, because I tend to work so much and I'm home. And I started hosting trivia to find friends, to like get out and meet people, because it was the only way I could figure out to do that. And I'm so grateful for it, to the nth degree I am, because otherwise I probably wouldn't know anybody. But even now, how do you meet people? And finding friends, the older you get, is more difficult, especially if you're working a full-time job, and then trying during COVID, even the friends that I did have, even if I was fine, like, let's go do something. A lot of times they're like, I'm not gonna go leaving any house. Nope, not like, so you find yourself alone a lot of the time. I mean, I would say about 365 days in a year, I was home alone about 330 of them. So
even then, at that point, it's like, there's a question of not even how do I make a good first impression. It's like, how do I even meet the people?
How do I make an impression?
To meet those impressions. Because if there's nobody you can meet, then making impressions really isn't your biggest concern.
But that's where the virtual thing, I mean, it has been so very helpful. This virtual environment has been something that for me, I don't think I'd be alive without it. I mean, I'm sure I would be, but it has in so many ways sustained my sanity. And not having it would have made me, I'd probably be crazy. It'd be Grey Gardens over here right now.
So when you're in the place of trying to meet someone new, let's take it in the dating world. We can take it to the coaching world in a second. In the dating world, what is it that you would want that person to know about you on that first date?
To know about me.
I think it's important that they understand kind of how your schedule works. That's, I think, a big one. I think a really big turnoff for a lot of people would be kind of assuming that they don't want to talk to you because they don't want to talk to you, rather than, this is how my schedule works. I'm busy at this certain time. I think it's really important to kind of let that be known early on, so that it is understood that it's not that I don't want to speak with you, or I don't want to, go somewheres with you or spend some time with you. I think it's important to say that this is what I have to take care of before we can move on to that. And it's not that, I hate your guts or anything like that, or I'm a terrible communicator.
So it's a boundary.
Open line of communication too that's huge. That being able to communicate, this is my expectation, or this is what's going on in my life. Don't take it personal. It's all good. And then moving on to the next. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of relief that can be given in that moment. Letitia Walker says, by the way, depends where in life you are dating. In my single days and looking for new avenues to meet people, or just someone to share adventures with. After dating for a while, I was looking for a life partner. I wanted more of those quiet, intimate moments where there's more, where I could hear the other person's soul speaking, rather than I'm fun and spontaneous. So, I mean, that's really, it depends on where you're at in your life and in your space and what you're looking for. I mean, of course, that's
Sure.
timing is everything. Yeah.
Sure.
As my dad would. See, I have a theory of it's a working. I have theories about everything. But in truth, arranged marriages work a lot of times. They last for very long periods of time, and the couples are very happy. They don't even know each other prior to. As you've said, commitment is key. Because you can fall out of love, you can fall out of trust, but you can find those things again as long as you're committed to coming back to doing so.
Mhm.
So I feel like any two human beings that are committed to making something work can probably make things work. I mean, barring extreme situations, absolutely. But if you're willing, you can. And so in that note, I could almost go on a date with anybody and it could work out. Who knows? You know?
That's kind of the philosophy I have about coaching is I can coach with anyone. I can coach with anyone. They just have to decide that this is what they want to do.
And that's the
I already
willingness, right?
decided this is- I'm doing the profession, the couples coaching. I already decided that this is what I want to do. So exactly.
I mean, it's a matter of willingness, and both people have to be on board too, or you know, or all people if you're polyamorous, or you know.
Well, that's where the value thing comes in as well. Like both, I would assume for the arranged marriage in the best case scenario, the goal and the sort of end goal is that we're going to be married and have a family, and that's the goal that we're committed to, which is nice to have like that clearly defined goal. And we want, you know, smart goals for coaching as well. We want clearly defined goals and clearly defined boundaries. And when you have a setup like that in arranged marriage, it solves a lot of problems, where a lot of relationships are very kind of fuzzy, and you know, you don't really know where it's going, and sometimes you get the talk of like, what are we, and you don't really have an answer to that.
Well, there's a live experiment with these things that you're talking about. It's a TV show. I'm trying to think of it where they get married and they have to stay married for 3 months.
90
Oh.
days.
Yeah, I think I've heard. Yes.
I
And,
forgot.
and
But it's reality television, so I immediately,
Yeah,
you get the
somebody-
thing that's going on.
I said I should watch this because I told her who I was, blah, blah, blah. And I'm watching and I got sucked in for one season only. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So arranged marriages in the US are
90-day fiance. That's what it is.
completely different, I think, than when we add different cultures around the world, they're accustomed to that
Yes.
philosophy, whatever you would call that. We in the United States are not used to that. And I didn't see the one time season that I watched really any successful relationships. One was okay as far as I knew, but so do you have to be raised in that philosophy in order to have an arranged marriage, do you think? Or
Well, I mean, I would say so. That's what I was going to ask. I was going to sort of ask this question. One of the things we are inclined as people in general to do is to feel like everybody should be pairing up, like everybody should be in a coupling situation, like that's the natural course of action, but not for everybody. Some people don't need the coupling thing. Some people are happy being in many couples. Some people are, you know, there's all different kinds, but a lot of times there is, I mean, especially me, as a single woman, I have, it's weird. One, I don't have children, so I get a weird reaction, like you're missing out on something. But I'm okay, and I'm, you know, and then the other thing.
she's a fabulous auntie, so it works.
Yeah, and the other side too is well, is she okay if she's not in a relationship? If she's not, and there's this concern that happens sometimes with people where I might be just this miserable woman because I'm not paired with somebody, but that's not necessarily true at all for me, because I'm very independent in many ways, and I like my freedom in many ways. And so, mind you, that doesn't mean there isn't room, but I'm not miserable alone either. So I think that it's interesting that we are inclined to people should be in a couple, people should be in relationships, and that's not necessarily true either. I know a lot of people that aren't. I know people that I mean never have had anything of that nature, and they're perfectly content. To each their own, right? We all have our own
I
needs.
guess that's where coaching and I guess, dating relationships or marriage relationships are separated where it's so culturally ingrained to, get married or be a couple with someone, but it's not really so culturally ingrained with like the, coaching client relationship. That's not.
Well, it is and it isn't.
I mean,
What's interesting there is there are stigmatisms around certain people in certain cultures asking for help with regard to getting coaching.
Okay, no, you do make a good point then too.
And so there are people who it's a sign of weakness. It's things of that, and it's not. It's actually, I think, a sign of great strength to be able to ask for help or to hire a coach. It's being able to identify what you need to improve, right?
We see more people of different cultures saying these kinds of words. I'm here to support you. I'm not, going to be the therapist. I'm not. So they're sharing how they can help someone. I'm going to say blossom, which is not the right word, but blossom out in their own world. Time and time again, you have different stronger belief systems, not stronger, what's the word? Not US belief systems that have to really follow a criteria. And sometimes they will cross our path. I've had many people from different cultures come in that I had to learn what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable so that I could coach them within that guidance. So that's part of what we would do as a coach, as a someone seeking potential partner. How would cultures work into you potentially being a couple?
Well, and we've even embraced this when we did we've done classes for groups of people that were of different cultures from different places, and while in our classes we would normally handle something a very specific way. In this case, we would handle it in one situation I can think of in specific. We kept the women and the men separate just because it was going to be far more productive and socially acceptable in order to keep the genders with the genders in this situation. And it didn't ruin anybody's experience. In fact, it enhanced it. And it was us taking a moment to be respectful of the culture as well. I wanted to ask a question really quick. So a client comes in, there's a lot of misconception, which is true in everything around what life coaching is. And clients come in and they expect to be told what to do. Like, okay, so you are going to fix my life, right? But in that first impression moment, a coach is going to say no, right? Not the case. So how do you manage that first impression, breaking the news to your client that, no, I won't be giving you any advice in this session. I'm sorry. Lisa?
Yeah, in fact, that has come up a couple times because someone in that relationship wanted really that advice, and what they were looking for is an affirmation that I agreed with them.
Mm-hmm. And that's you.
But one of the things, I mean, every time I talk, it's a little bit different, but basically the concept is, of course I've got opinions. Of course I've got all of that. That's not appropriate here. I don't live in your world. I don't live in your life. Let's discover together what works best for you.
But so I'm going to again, but I obviously don't know what's best for me. I'm here because I need your help.
and that's a fabulous question. Share with me more details about what you do know about that experience. Just get them talking.
Yeah, you just get them talking. Just get them talking.
Get them talking and sharing about and how did you feel with that? What happened that you felt that way? Where do you think you wanted to feel?
One of the reasons I asked this is because I was speaking with a student of ours, and she was saying that, well, how do I tell my clients that I'm not giving them it? I mean, they were so, I mean, this is a heartbreaking moment that happens in class. It just is the moment that we let all the coaches know that you will not be giving advice. And there's always a large handful that are like,
What? Then what am I doing?
all of my value in the advice that I give.
Everybody loves that information. Love it because it's going to be honored to them.
They love it, yeah, because they already know what your answer is going to be when you give it, right? Is what that is. If the people I ask, I call it, which we were just talking about, not cursing on, but co-signing BS is what I call it. Is we go to whoever we want to co-sign our BS, basically. So if this is I'm going to go to that person, the person's going to co-sign with me, and so that I can feel like justified in whatever it is. I mean, not necessarily, and you may very well be, but that's just it's a term that I have used, and it's in many ways true. We go where we want the answers. We're not going to go, I mean, maybe unless we're into that, to like the person that's going to give us the really tough, like hard, long talk about what you're doing with your life. We try to avoid those for the most part. And so you're going to go to the ones that are going to sort of co-sign your BS with you.
Which is what you're not doing as a coach. You're trying to get them to decide
Hopefully as well,
what they want.
it doesn't come as a surprise to your clients when they first talk to you that you're not giving them advice.
It does, though, I'm told. I mean,
I would guess that it does, but also at the same time, we, talk about this in marketing, sometimes when we're talking about like, what's your elevator pitch or how do you present yourself, giving that first impression, we don't want to explicitly say, I give advice or I do this or that, because that's just not coaching at that point.
I want to say hi to Jennifer Snyder. She said truth. And Letitia Walker said, you explained that they are part of the solution. That's one of the things that you do.
Yeah.
Well. But that's that first impression thing, though. Anthony was bringing up how do I resolve, okay, so I've got all this experience, I've got all these things, and then you're putting that out there, but that's what that first impression that you are giving when you're marketing yourself. And all of that knowledge is important. It's not that it's getting thrown out the door, it's that it's helping you have a better knowledge of what questions to ask, right? So and it's important, put that out there. You want to establish trust by saying, hey, I can do this. But once the door shuts, it's about the client and their knowledge, right? At that point.
I think a really good transition in this space would be letting them know I'm here for you to help you empower yourself. So ultimately, you don't really even need me at the end of our relationship. And I hear that kind of being used as one of the better ways to segue out of that conversation, that question of, you're here for me. I need you to tell me what I need to do. And again, I think a really good way to approach that is letting them know I'm here to help you dig into yourself and find that what your power is, bring that out so that you can use it when I'm not around, and you have the ability to get through your own muck and, live your life the way that you ultimately would like to live it.
Yeah, I mean, because it comes down to how many of us like to be told what to do and follow it. I'm laughing because I don't.
It depends on the moment. Sometimes
if I'm asking for it,
if I'm like, I don't want to, just tell me what to do.
I like clear direction. If I'm asking somebody where they want to eat for a date, just tell me where you want to eat.
Don't make me guess.
So those are different circumstances, right?
There's that dating.
About pulling information from someone. We're talking about a different kind of relationship where we have the give and take and flow of that process. In coaching, that's not necessarily the same process. Just tell me what restaurant to get. Just tell me what to do. Give me the to-do list. Because I mean, I know that when I have that list, I may follow it for a temporary moment, but
you're not gonna follow my honey-do list. I thought you loved me.
We're witnessing the destruction of a relationship right before our eyes right now.
I don't even give my husband a honey-do list.
No, yeah, no, and nobody listens to me. I'm always telling you guys what to do. Nobody listens.
I don't listen.
I can see the eye rolling that we do.
Oh, Jennifer Snyder asks a rookie question about clients. How do I put healthy space? Well, first and foremost, don't worry about rookie questions. This is not, we don't need to label this. This is just a question. How do I put healthy space between me and my clients? I had a client develop feelings for me.
Oh, yeah, boundaries.
That's a big one, yeah.
You have to really define those boundaries and even talk about that. You know, say sometimes it can be misunderstood that clients can feel close, and you may feel some things that you haven't felt before because maybe no one else has ever you've not experienced that with them potentially. We are professional here. You just always maintain that professional boundary, and if you have to remind them, you remind them.
And I wanted to ask Jennifer, if you don't mind sharing, how did you find out they had developed feelings for you? How was that shared with you? I mean, it might take her a minute to respond, but
Lisa as well, like just listening, being listened to is a form of validation, and some people never get that. So
they don't feel heard, they don't feel understood.
Oh my God.
We try not to like explicitly like validate, every 5 seconds, but like, just being passive and listening might be, the validation that they are very much lacking in their lives. And you can't really help that, but
and it doesn't necessarily mean that something bad has happened if that happens. If they've developed, it's not like it's like, oh my God, you don't have to this is a kind of a natural thing for people to be like, I feel comfortable and safe and myself here. I don't feel like this anywhere else.
Let's talk about how you can get that out there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Take this with you, and then we bottle it up and say, what is this? Define it.
Yeah, but of course, always make sure you have your own boundaries defined in there. Yeah, in that moment as well. He told me he shared. He told me he shared things he hasn't shared with anyone, is what he said. And he told her is how. Do you feel the same way back? Letitia Walker asked.
Yeah, and that's what you just go. Oh, I'm thank you so much. I'm honored that you shared. This is your coaching session. This is not my coaching session. This is not a relationship where we're building a relationship for it to go anywhere. And I appreciate, just reset the boundary. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be awkward.
It's a lot of reasons why some coaches will choose just to coach the same sex. I mean, for this, this is a reason.
Or refer out.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask. You can also refer out at that point. For if and I would ask them, are you comfortable continuing, knowing feelings will not be reciprocated? This is a professional relationship. And then depending on, like, give them the space to think that through and then refer out from there. And then also ask yourself the same question. Am I comfortable proceeding, knowing whether or that they have those feelings and that this will remain a professional relationship? No matter what, you do not go there.
There are so many people, even in the licensed therapy world, that have lost their licensure because they went down that path. They said, this is the person for me too. And when they crossed over to that side, guys, anybody that I have investigated this with, do you know how many relationships survived on the other side?
Jennifer says, thank you for sharing. This is kind of embarrassing is happening. No, it is. I mean, you have nothing to be embarrassed about, first and foremost. This is something
it's a great question. It's a
great, yes.
Absolutely.
And it's something that a lot of coaches deal with. And it's something so thank you for asking. And also you did not cause this. You were coaching, you were being a coach. There's nothing that you have done or to be embarrassed about. So please, no embarrassment here. I mean, unless you're comfortable being embarrassed.
A lot of coaches do experience that they're not quite sure. It often is a big topic in a class that we go down when we're interacting with that. So you're not alone.
Well, and again, I really want to drive home. It's a natural occurrence because just as Anthony said, this may be a situation where this person is it's the only space they can actually be their true selves, their whole selves there. And that creates vulnerability. It does. And then if you create a safe space where they can feel trusted in that vulnerable state, it's a natural thing to get for an attachment to form. It just is. And it may not be, they might be mistaking attachment for feelings. There can be a lot of things going on, especially if you're raw and you're in a space, but and so that's why it is something you can work through. It just you have to sort of identify what you're comfortable with, what the boundaries are, and it's not uncommon.
Maybe work through it. It can successfully get to the other side of that awkward moment when you have to reestablish that boundary. It can be just fine on the other side once you break through the awkwardness.
I just
Lakeisha says it's a human response when someone touches your soul.
Yeah.
Are
Are we saying, Anthony?
I was going to say, this is also unintentional dating advice. This is what we want to happen when we're dating people, but, you know, not when coaching, but, you know, dating someone, you know, get personal, get deep, be vulnerable, you know.
Yeah, and then you'll form a connection.
You'll fall in love with something. I don't know.
Gosh. Yeah, I remember a time as we're all talking about one of the classes I taught way back when. It was a hilarious moment. It was a serious moment. The conversation was this serious, but it was hilarious because everybody kept building on like a comedy, but potentially all of that could happen. And so while we were being humorous with the responses, we all came up with different ways to set that or reset the boundary so that each one of them could feel more secure with who they were in their position. So practice it.
Can we each take a turn breaking the boundary and then setting the boundary? Lisa, I think I love you.
And Brooke, I was really concerned that you loved me too much.
So has been said.
Again, making jokes, but this is a serious subject. I mean, it is something that happens, and it is also, I will say too, if you do not feel comfortable, if in some way it is making you feel uncomfortable, if they are crossing other boundaries, refer them, end them, stop it. I mean, because you have your own personal boundaries as a human being, you're facing human boundaries, and so just you don't have to, because you're in a client coach session with somebody, does not mean that you have to allow for any of it to be crossed.
And this is not necessarily only about them like falling for you. This could be inappropriate other bullying kinds of behaviors that you're experiencing from clients. Now, it doesn't happen often, but even not often means it happens once in a while from people. You do not need to retain a client that's causing you grief.
I'll take, absolutely. I will fire clients. I have fired clients because they are difficult. I've also, okay, this is going to sound terrible. I have also taxed clients who were difficult clients because I know that they're going to be more work. And now this is not in the coaching space. This is in a consulting space and a design space, where I just know that it's going to be a lot more handholding. It's going to be a lot more, or they're just not nice human beings. And so, okay, I'll work with them to a degree. And then eventually I'm just like, I'm not doing it anymore. I don't need your business. I can't, it's just too much. It's too much work to have you to work for you. But I also, in the same note, boundaries extend beyond just personal space. If clients aren't paying you, you don't have to see them. If clients aren't respecting your time, those are boundaries that should be set. And they in a professional space as well. You know, the reason there's an appointment, all of these things, and it goes into your contract and your client coach agreement. Something I work with my clients on is what are those? You got to fill those things out, figure out what your return policy, figure out all of the, refund policy, all of that those are boundaries at the end of the day. Jennifer Snyder says he's a great person and she takes seriously the sacred space of the client and coach space, and she wants to continue to help him grow. So that's lovely, and just be very clear with him through it. And I bet you guys do great, honestly.
I have a question. Do you guys think there's a space where someone as a coach may also see this person as someone they'd like to get to know? Do you think there's a space where that can fester, where that can continue to grow, where it isn't unethical, or in way of harming that relationship as a coach client.
Would you say after the coaching relationship has ended, like let's say you're on a 3-month contract, you're done, maybe it's been like a good couple months or maybe even longer after that, and the relationships now is like, we don't coach anymore? No, not even then.
Yeah, Letitia Walker says
Even
nope.
in the therapy world, they cannot see anybody outside for 2 years.
Mhm.
Now, the thing that I know about my coaching is I've had people come back to me 4 years later. Now, if I allowed, like there's several couples, but there's especially this one couple that I really liked them a lot. I thought they were an amazing couple. They're just right up my husband and my kind of personality and style. But had I crossed that bridge and became friends, one, they would have lost their coach. They would have lost their safe place to go and share whatever it is that they needed to share. They most likely would not have gotten another coach because of that experience. So I will honor that space forever because of that.
It's one of the things Lisa and I have had this conversation where when I started work at CLCI, I said I'm not going to develop friendships with students like close. It's not saying we are family and we are here, but we will always exist in a professional space, simply because that's where it should be. And it's bad business in my mind. Like that's what goes through my head. It's just bad business because there's so many things that can go awry. And also if you're looking at your business as a whole, so as a business coach, if you're looking at your business as a whole, one little thing that can become something so big, right? It can, if you expose a side, if you have one night where you're maybe behaving or acting in such a way, all it takes is one person that is your client for that to go everywhere, and that can be bad for business everywhere. And so it's kind
of like teachers who had their own Facebook page and showed their drunken pictures.
You just don't, because you want to maintain, and now that's you may have that other side to you. There's nothing wrong with that other side, but you want to put your best first impression forward, right? You want to maintain that professional impression.
You have far more to lose than you do have to gain for those kind of things, essentially.
Now, do people break these rules? Yes. Do they? Does it always end in disaster? No. But
99. I'm going to give it a high statistic. I'm going to say 99% of the time it's going to end in disaster. Mm-hmm. Are there some truthful experiences? Of course, but at the end of the day,
why risk it?
Well, this relationship's really important to me. Okay.
That's
to go get yourself a therapist and or a coach.
Yeah, exactly.
Do that first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and that's the thing too. That's that very small myopic thought process. It's romantic in many ways. There's only this one person. This one, and this is the one shot. This is the one.
It's a lopsided relationship.
But and it's not a healthy. It didn't start in a place of equality. It didn't start in a place of shared intention either. And so it's a bad idea. We'll say it's bad show.
That answers your question, Drew.
I know. Great though. Thank you for that question. That was a fantastic question. We're about done. I took the conversation to a different place, but I saw you all on here and I was like, SOS, thank you. So where did you take the question or the conversation? I'd love to. Oh, well, today. That's what you mean. I see. I was thinking in the session. I was like, where'd you take it? How did you handle it? I'm curious.
You're a little nosy. No.
I am nosy. Well, maybe she's got some great insight that we didn't get to share. So,
Jennifer, we love when you guys interact with us.
Yeah, please. The more questions, the better. We love you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. So last thoughts, final thoughts, everybody? Anthony?
Oh, what? I think we spoke about a few different things.
Make a good impression, by knowing what your goals are and sort of communicating that with the other person and setting, the intention.
That is, which is a brilliant point. Just like we do in our coaching sessions, we set a session contract. What do you want to accomplish today? Maybe try that out on your date.
I think this kind of wraps up all our past topics this month too, which is, that we've done since the beginning of the year too, with, how to set good intentions and goals.
Goal setting.
Why do we communicate in the same language with our relationships? What was last week's? What did we do last week?
Fighting with fair techniques.
Well, that's when you're in the relationship.
Yeah.
Really quick,
You don't want to fight.
Conversating. with
Letitia
fair.
Walker says, I do see exactly what you're saying. One bad night, however, I dislike cancel society. We could be give grace about one bad choice or night. And I agree with you completely. I completely agree that our past actions do not define us. We are whoever we choose to be in this moment. And to allow the grace and forgiveness of people for being human. I completely agree.
That's one of my favorite words, grace.
Is that reality though? Unfortunately, no.
Yeah. So there's a corollary to that. We can extend the grace, but as we can very clearly see, we're probably not going to be the recipients of grace a lot of the time. So you have to keep that in mind.
Depends on what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Also, though, you can always take the attitude of, you know what, it happened. One night happens. I'm moving forward. The people who get it and can forgive me, they're the ones I want. So it doesn't matter. So we all make mistakes. We all have a one night thing.
Well,
Or
and
bad
to
person
follow up with
preference.
what you're saying, Anthony, to set the intention for a date, I say yes. I mean, you don't have to call it, I'm gonna set the intention for our date. What's your intent, right? I'm here to get to know you. You just open up that dialogue. I'm here to get to know you. I want you to get to know me. Let's ask each other some questions so that we're utilizing our time,
Yeah.
enjoying our tea.
I think that kind of allows me to give my final thoughts in saying that when it comes to first impressions and questioning in relationships, I've probably said this over the course of the month. I think it's just really important that the more you know yourself, the better you understand how to ask questions and figure out what you truly want and which direction you want to go in with these relationships and what have you not.
My goal is to give the worst possible first impression. So it's all uphill from there.
Yeah, that is foolproof. I can't say.
Set the bar low and you'll never be disappointed.
I'm good to go. I'm coming in crazy. That's what I'm doing. Thank you guys so much for watching out there. We are Certified Life Coach Institute. We certify coaches in 3 days, and we are award-winning at what we do. Before I sign off, I want to mention next week we will be starting a challenge, but we will also, beyond starting the challenge, which we'll probably have to go live again this week to talk about it a little more, Jerome, maybe Thursday. But we're starting Duality Month next week, which I'm excited about. And first topic will be empaths and narcissists. So that'll be an interesting topic. So
We have St. Patrick's next month.
Oh yes, I've already got my outfit. I'm already set.
I forgot about getting
The day of our people.
So
thank
if
you
you're
guys
a
for watching.
narcissist, we will be talking about you.
To watch. Comment, share, like, all of that good stuff, and check out Certified Life Coach. I can talk, I swear. Certified Life Coach Institute. Thank you guys so much for watching. And thank you for all of your interaction and your amazing questions. We appreciate it.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Once again, this is brought to you by Certified Life Coach Institute. We're an ICF accredited school who certifies our life coaches in 3-day online intensive courses. In addition to other podcast episodes, feel free to check us out every Tuesday at 4:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube or Facebook for our CLCI Lives, where we get together and discuss various topics that are centered around sharpening your skills so you can become a better certified life coach. For more information, feel free to visit us at certifiedlifecoachinstitute.com. Until next time, be well.